Hello everyone and welcome back guys to round 11 of season 4 of the F1 2020 My Team Career Mode, where today we're here back at the Austrian Grand Prix. Now it has been a few days since the last video. We've been doing some other content on the channel. Obviously yesterday we had the Mclaren Driver Career Mode video, and then the day before that we had a Dirt 5 video. So if you've missed out on those ones, definitely recommend going back and checking them out. But today though, we're here back with the My Team Career Mode. Obviously last time out at the French Grand Prix, another brilliant race with a three-way scrap at the end. Certainly one that I wouldn't recommend missing out on if you haven't seen it already. There will be spoilers in 3, 2, 1 now. So, last time out then, Lewis Hamilton took his second win in 3 races, his third of the season there. 212 Motorsport now have 3 race victories in a row, and you can see we have now got a 26-point lead over Finnish driver Valtteri Bottas as well in the Drivers' World Championship. Consistency has been key in the early stages of this season, but we finally lead in both of the championships. So let's dive in then here to the Austrian Grand Prix. Here we are then, back at the Austrian Grand Prix circuit. Obviously the big question this weekend is just how close to that sub 1 minute lap time can we get around this track. Obviously in Q2, as always, medium compounded tyres for our first run. The pace seems to be very strong here once again, but Mercedes always waiting in the wings around these qualifying settings here. Unfortunately, you can just see the ERS still not looking great at the moment there. We're down to just about 90%, I think, maximum capacity. So we're taking a bit of a risk, but, oh god, a lot of fishtailing up there as well. But as long as we get to the end of this weekend, we should be then good. Try and take the other energy store right the way through to the end of the season. So, yeah, hopefully we don't have any issues this weekend nonetheless there. But so far, this lap has felt fairly tidy. We want to be looking at probably about a mid 101 there, as we get a huge boatload of oversteer, understeer, sorry, even I should say, through the middle sector. But yeah, we probably want to be aiming for a mid sort of 101 if we want to try and seek through into Q3 on these tyres. Through the final couple of corners there, really pushing to the limits on the curb in there. Carlos Sainz, new fastest at 102.1. We go slower, so that probably won't be quick enough to get us through into Q3, but we shall wait and see. Heading back out then with about 5 minutes left on the clock. We're actually going to take a bit of a risk here and see if we can go faster on these medium tyres. You can see we're still sat down in P9. Hamilton as well has gone for the same strat as us, so if we can try and get, make this work, drop Hamilton down to P9, make him have to go for another run. Hopefully that will put us in good stead there as we get a bit of wheel spin again through the first corner. Obviously, if we write off this lap, then these tyres we're just not going to have to worry about anymore as well. There should be enough time to go for another run on the softs as we reach the top of the hill. Try to avoid the wheel spin, still getting just a little bit there, but we get a much better run this time round. We want to be aiming, for probably upwards of half a second improvement, if possible. There were a couple of big mistakes on that lap as we just try to ease on the power down the hill here. Brake just at the 50 board in towards the double left-hander. That was a lot better than last time round through there. Bit careful over that inside curve, and yeah, you can see we're 3/10 up as we've just got a couple more corners to navigate on this lap. Let's try and get a 101 if possible, just about keep it on the curbing. And then once again, just on the curbing through the final corner. It is going to be about a 3/10 improvement. P2! All of a sudden, that's just how close qualifying seems to be around the Red Bull ring there. But that should be us into Q3. So there we go then, the end of Q2 here from the Austrian Grand Prix. Hamilton a 101.2 at the top of the standings there, but we were less than 2/10 ahead of Lance Stroll there. He gets knocked out at the end of Q2 there. He joins Lando Norris, Perez, Gasly, as well as Kimi Räikkönen and Magnussen there at the end of Q2. I've just realised, Max Verstappen, he never even made it out of Q1, and I never even spotted that. So, Max Verstappen, always incredibly quick around this Austrian Grand Prix. He's going to have to put on a show tomorrow. I never even spotted that, but more importantly for us, let's see what we can do then here in Q3. Oh no. Oh no, the track is getting wet again. We always seem to get interchangeable conditions around this Austrian Grand Prix, and it seems to have pounced once more here in this race. In qualifying even, I should say, everyone trying to go out before the track gets too wet here. We've already got a couple of cars on the intermediate compounded tyres here, so are we going to be able to find any time on the dries? And was this session a case of first man out? Was going to be able to get the best run in? It appears to be that way at the moment here, unless of course the track dries up towards the end of the session, but we're already 2 tenths down on Charles Leclerc in P6. They're a big lockup at the top of the hill. We need to get a lap time in, nonetheless there, just so we got something on the board, as everyone else seems to have already done a run in this session there. This is the problem with just jumping in and waiting a few minutes. I thought I heard the rain heading down in towards the final couple of corners of this lap, though. This is not looking good for ourselves here, as we just try to keep it nice and tidy, no mistakes, anything like that, and we've Giovinazzi'd it through the final corner. Now we need the track to get dry again. I think that's at least 2, maybe even 3 seasons now we bottled a qualifying run here at Austria. I mean, we've got to go out, we've got to try and get a lap in here right towards the end of the session. The guys that went out on the softs, they are going to be comfortably ahead at the end of the day, but with a bit of luck, maybe, just maybe, the track's got a bit better for these intermediate compounded tyres there. So the team's saying their lap times are getting slower, which is not a good sign. But like I said, hopefully these inters now are a bit quicker than they were when the track was still sort of semi-wet here. Hopefully we'll be able to get pretty much the maximum out of this set there as we reach the top of the hill. We're upwards of we're already over a second up, so we're clearly finding a fair bit of time. But is anyone else able to improve as well there? I think Bottas has gone even faster than his previous run, our main championship rival. But obviously our best lap won't really give us a particularly good representative delta at the moment, obviously, until we get out towards the final corner. Let's just wait and see. What's the gap going to be to Bottas at the moment? We're half a second up on the Finn, so maybe there is a chance still to move ourselves up fairly tidily inside the top 10 there. Just 2 more corners to go then. It's going to be a mix-up grid for the Austrian Grand Prix, but where can we put ourselves as we head through the final corner? Try and keep it nice and tidy, get the power down. We're going to be about 11 seconds up in the end. Where does that leave us? 4th! I'll have that very happily. How on earth did we get that in the end there? I thought after that first run, it was over. We were going to be 10th on the grid, but we come 4th in the end. Only 1.6 off George Russell.
Russell, Hamilton, and Daniel Kvyat. With qualifying complete, all that remains is the main event. We'll be live and uninterrupted for the Grand Prix tomorrow, so make sure you join us then.
So there we go then, George Russell on pole for the Austrian Grand Prix, and Hamilton and Danny Kvyat, the second time an AlphaTauri has started inside the top 3 here this season. We were the fastest of the intermediate runners there, 1.6 off pole, but Charles Leclerc, 6th place, sat in the middle, also on the soft compounded tyres there, so a very mixed up qualifying session in the end. 6 cars from 5 different teams inside the top 6 there, but let's just dive in then here to the Austrian Grand Prix.
This is it then, race day in Spielberg for this year's Austrian Grand Prix. The grandstands were a sea of red in 2019 thanks to the commemorative hats in honour of the late great Niki Lauda, who took home victory of course back in 1984. And it's a sellout crowd once again here today. The Spielberg circuit then is situated 700 metres above sea level, with just 10 corners making up one of the shortest laps of the season. One time around here is a distance of 2.6 miles, with the best overtaking chances into turn 1 or the tight uphill turn 3. Anthony Davidson joins me again for the race today. Why don't we begin by discussing Alexander Albon? As ever, the threat of unreliability is never far away, and indeed they'll be starting out of position today due to a power unit component change. So it's going to be a difficult task to move forward from there.
But on the bright side, at least those fresh components can help them maintain the power they need to come through the pack. I expect to see them take a more aggressive approach today to make up for the compromised start.
Before we begin, let's take a quick look at the grid lineup for today's race. George Russell did very well in qualifying yesterday and will start today's race from pole position. And Lewis Hamilton completes the front row. As we continue through the rest of the grid today, we have Fiat, Mr. Monaco, Daniel Ricciardo, and Leclerc, Bottas, Sainz, Ocon, and Lance Stroll, Norris, Perez, Pierre Gasly, and Raikkonen, Magnussen, De Vries, Jordan King, and Nobuharu Matsushita. Albon, Giovinazzi, Latifi, and Max Verstappen completes the grid. It's almost time for those 5 red lights to go out. Then let's see who can prevail today.
Now that we've got some points on the board, let's continue this form and aim for another top 10 finish.
So here we are then on the grid, ready for round 11 of the season from this Austrian Grand Prix. It's looking like a nice dry Grand Prix. Things you love to see here on F1 2020. But yeah, hopefully we can just keep it clean and tidy off the start. We should be much quicker than Kvyat. He shouldn't be an issue here today. But the likes of Hamilton and George Russell certainly are going to make this interesting as well here. I'd love it for the team to make it 4 race victories in a row, but we also need to try and stop Hamilton as well as Bottas behind us as well here. Let's just dive in then here. Round 11 of the season from the Austrian Grand Prix. We know we need a nice, clean, tidy start. 5 red lights. And it's lights out and away we go. Off to a almost respectable start there. Actually, no, we've been swallowed in towards turn 1. And I could just tell Leclerc in that Ferrari was going to cause a disaster. So we had to back out of that one incredibly early on. That has been an atrocious start for ourselves. And the top 6 breaking away early on as we head up the hill there, up the inside of Charles Leclerc this time around. Look at that Kvyat up with a P2, so I said we didn't need to worry about him, as we've got yellow flags out for whatever reason. Yeah, I said we didn't need to worry about Kvyat. He's had a worldly of a start there. I think Hamilton has got back round him as we head down the other side of the hill there. But yeah, starting on the mediums, certainly didn't leave us in the best position in towards the first corner, but it should hopefully mean we're quicker than the cars around us towards the end of the Grand Prix. The 2-stop certainly seems like a fairly safe strategy around this circuit as we head now down through Sector 3. But I think the only man inside the top 6 that had a pretty quiet start was the pole sitter. George Russell there leads the way at the end of the first lap. Our main championship rival, Valtteri Bottas, still just in front of ourselves though, but we have survived, and that's the most important thing. Heading on to lap 3 then, DRS has now been enabled, but I'll be honest, we're barely just outside the DRS of Bottas, but I don't actually feel that quick at the moment in this Grand Prix as we reach the top of the hill there. Now we get ourselves a lot closer. But yeah, Kvyat really doing quite well at the moment, rather worryingly for Red Bull at the home Grand Prix. They probably want the AlphaTauri out of the way, and Danny Rick up into the podium places here, but hopefully we can just keep it clean and try and get around these guys. There we go. I think Danny Kvyat's going to be a bit of a sitting duck on the run up the hill there. To Daniel Ricciardo just behind him. What a good result that would be for Danny Kvyat. Obviously had a brilliant race out at Imola at the weekend in real Formula 1 there. But Ricciardo darts to the inside on his Russian former teammate there, sorry I should say, Bottas. Oh, we almost got the run on Valtteri Bottas up the hill there, but put a fair bit of rubber. I'm looking for words. Rubber into the racetrack there, up the inside through the next corner though. Definitely these mediums now starting to come into a bit more of their own. So Ricciardo gets past Kvyat, we get past our main title rival, Valtteri Bottas as well. Back up into 5th place in this Grand Prix here. Can we now try and get past the Russian next time through? Here we go, lap 5. Danny Kvyat a little bit further back from Danny Rick, but we've still got one of the best engines in Formula 1. A bit of contact there. Hopefully that hasn't given us any front wing damage. Don't think that was really... I don't really know. I think that was not really Kvyat's fault, but I don't think there was much we could have done there either. Luckily no front wing damage, so I don't think we're going to lose any sleep over it. The energy store, though, looking rather worn out, as you can just see on the graphic. Let's just have a quick look. No, it's the control electronics, 60% worn as well, so everything starting to get a little bit touch and go at the moment. Hopefully it won't give us any issues in the long run. Let's try and close up on the Australian. Here we go, good run on Danny Rick. On lap 6, we'll have a look up the inside, and once again, it looks like we're going to do a dive bomb on the king of the late breakers there. Up in a P3 once again of this Grand Prix, but Hamilton and Russell have really romped away at the start of this race. They're trying to use the best of their soft compounded tyres here. Hopefully, we can still match the pace and then close it up towards the end of the Grand Prix. Pretty much now then crossing quarter race distance in this Austrian Grand Prix as we just jump on to lap 9 here. The gap to Hamilton and Russell definitely coming down a fair bit over these last couple of laps, but I think now our mediums are in much better nick than their soft compounded tyres here in this Grand Prix. Hopefully, obviously, we won't lose out too much when they pit inevitably before we do. We're going for quite a linear strategy here. Lap 12, lap 24, and then to the end here on 2 sets of the soft compounded tyres. Hopefully, the tyres hang on in there nicely. On to lap 12 then. This should be our pit-in lap in this Grand Prix, but as you can see, Hamilton is still out here at the moment, so not too sure what's going on in terms of the strategy. Maybe the AI trying to do, I don't know, a soft-hard race, perhaps? I never know for sure what is going on F1 2020, but there's no doubt about it. Hamilton's tyres have definitely seen much better days. We've basically whittled down the gap for about 4 seconds to just shy of a second at the moment now, in the space of, what, like 6 or 7 laps here in this Grand Prix. The pace has been really good, consistency has been right where we want it as well here, but are we going to see Hamilton or George Russell diving into the pits at the end of this lap? That is the next big questions. The team's saying we don't want to stay behind Hamilton for very long, and is Hamilton going to be diving it in the end of this one? No, he is not, so we may as well stay out for another lap as well here, if these guys are. There we go, Hamilton is coming into the pits the end of this one. Careful that we don't run into the back of our teammate through that penultimate corner there, but George Russell staying out for yet another lap here in this Grand Prix. So George Russell really trying to take these soft compound tyres as far as possible here, so very intrigued to see what his strat's going to be towards the end of this race. What is Hamilton going on to as well then? Hamilton's going on to hards. So the team then running some split strategies coming from 212 Motorsport on the board there. We're going to stick to our softs. I just think that's the way forward in this race. I think the mediums are pretty much as understeery as I'd like at the moment. Don't want to know what the hards would be like around this circuit. So it is now going to be a case of the 1 versus the 2 stop here then around this Spielberg circuit. What is Russell going to do? Is he going to finally pit the end of this lap? We've only got a couple of corners before we will find out. We are definitely going to dive it in though at the end of this one. But yeah, Hamilton has come out in clear air as well there, so he's had a fantastic turnaround. But George Russell out for another lap in this Grand Prix there. Very, very long stint coming from Mercedes. We need to make sure we get it stopped. Only just 48 miles an hour as we head down into the pit lane there. But we've got Bottas in behind us. So I think Mercedes is definitely going to be pitting George Russell rather shortly in this Grand Prix. Very slow stop though by our team. 3 seconds is not what we needed. Let's head back out onto the circuit. Might we get an undercut on Hamilton? An overcut even? It's going to be close. No, the gap is pretty much where it was before we pit. Let's see if we can get round him rather quickly though, so now we've got a pit stop to make up. And yeah, hopefully this shouldn't take at all very long there at the next corner. Got good traction, not as good as our teammate actually saying that, but to the outside we go. Bit later on the brakes with a bit of luck. No, Hamilton keeps the nose there. You've certainly not wanted to give up on this just yet, but we've got much better traction on these quicker compounded tyres there. And we're now up into the net P2 of the Grand Prix. Hamilton thought about it, but nothing able to work there for him. Now we've got a push. Oh, and George Russell is into the pit lane there. Daniel Ricciardo doing another lap on his tyres there. Are we going to get the undercut? Yeah, no, it is an undercut on George Russell. Interesting line through the first corner there. The screen glare getting a little bit too much to handle. But George Russell comes back out in P3. Or P4 technically of this Grand Prix. But he's on mediums. So is he trying to do a soft medium strap? This doesn't really make sense at the moment. We've got 3 different strategies coming out from the top 3 in this Grand Prix. Which one will prevail? Last man into the pit lane then is Danny Rick out of the top runners as we set a 1:02.9 at the end of that lap, trying to pull away a bit of a margin whilst we can enjoy this fresh rubber there. But yeah, really intrigued now to see who comes out on top out of the top three of us here, all on different strategies. Bottas and Ricciardo are on the same as George Russell, so maybe we both have dropped the ball a bit here. Coming towards the end of lap 19 then, we have definitely pushing away from Hamilton and Russell there. The gap between the pair of them is just coming down a little bit lap after lap. However, now we've definitely used the best of these soft compounded tyres there. One of the Renaults, I've just noticed as well, is already a lap down in this Grand Prix, so really not been a good day out for those guys. But, yeah, we just got to try and get these tyres to the end of lap 25 and then go for another blast at the end. So then, from this Grand Prix, and you can just see on the timings, just above me, the gap between Hamilton and Russell, now well and truly below 1 second here. George Russell really applying the pressure to our teammate Lewis Hamilton as we reach 2/3 distance in this Grand Prix. We, however, have got a Williams to navigate in very soon. Lap 23, I think this is going to be the lap. Hamilton loses the place to George Russell in this Grand Prix there. George, again, less than 2/10 back as they reach the top of the hill there. No, actually, he doesn't, as we got yellow flags out. That's one of the Red Bulls. I think that must be Ricciardo out. And we've got a safety car. That is, again, 2 in a row. We've had a near perfect safety car in these Grand Prix there. That'll allow us to pit onto another set of soft compounded tyres here. Will it allow the rest of the field to do the same, though? But how many well-timed safety cars are we going to get in these Grand Prix? And more importantly, will Hamilton and Russell opt to pit in as well here? Playing then onto a fresh set of these soft compounded tyres. Not going to take any risks. Oh, I said not going to take any risks as we hoof it up towards the pit lane line there. But yeah, Hamilton and Russell are going to fly back past us here. I'm intrigued to see if Bottas is going to be able to get ahead of us as well. I don't think the Finnish driver will be able to. Again, another really poor stop by the team there. But we are going to come back out in P3 in this Grand Prix then, by the looks of it, which is really handy for us, as it's basically meant that gap that we had to close down to the top two is not going to be a gap any longer. So, end of lap 26 then, 10 to go here from the Austrian Grand Prix, and the answer to who's having a bad race weekend is Kimi Räikkönen. The only man a lap down here. He's pretty much now a lap down to the Williams in this Grand Prix, which says it all. But Danny Kvyat as well, still running P5 in this Grand Prix. Could be some big points for AlphaTauri here, but Hamilton is going to lead the way out of the final corner. George Russell hot on his heels as we are caught napping as we try to get the power down through the final turn there. Hopefully Räikkönen will get out of the way. The most experienced man in Formula 1 certainly does. I think in this alternate universe he's got pretty much now 400 Grand Prix starts, which is kind of insane, I'll be honest. But anyway, green flag racing once again here from the Spielberg circuit. We were one of the only cars to dive it into the pits under the safety car there, so Russell and Hamilton hopefully should be easy pickings. However, I said that last time out at France and Hamilton still won the Grand Prix, so we'll wait and see. Oh, George Russell, that took me by surprise. A big lock-up through the first corner and we just took the apex and we suddenly make the move work on the Mercedes man there. He's going to be under a lot of pressure from his teammate Valtteri Bottas as we reach the top of the hill, but certainly wasn't expecting that from our former teammate there. A bit of contact, but nothing too much to worry about for either of us there. And now Hamilton got a little bit of safety here, but 8 laps to go from this Austrian Grand Prix. Surely, on much fresher, much quicker rubber, it's a case of when rather than if. All over the back now of our teammate Lewis Hamilton as we try to get the power up at the top of the hill here. Surely our teammate is not going to try and put up too much of a fight on this. I don't want to cost him any time though, as I know he is still trying to defend from the likes of Russell and Bottas on their slightly softer rubber as well here. But hopefully, yeah, we can just try and make the move work nice and tidy. Just a simple DRS pass will do me absolutely fine in this Grand Prix. We don't need any heroics around the outside, full opposite lock, anything like that. We just want to get the lead without costing Hamilton any time. Hopefully now we can initiate... Oh, God, Hamilton. I was about to say, hopefully we can initiate teamwork makes the dream work there, but Hamilton locking up through the first corner. That's going to completely cost me a run at our teammate out of the first turn there, as we have to try and avoid getting any front wing damage. But, yeah, Hamilton then, he's going to lead for another tour here. Right, 6 laps to go then. Now, hopefully, we can initiate Operation Teamwork Makes the Dream Work, as Russell, once again, seems to be trying to get back involved in this. Can we get a good run on Hamilton up the hill here to the outside? It's going to give us the racing line into the corner. And just like that, we now inherit the lead of the Austrian Grand Prix, a bit deep at the top of the hill there. But we get the power down off the exit, and Hamilton is going to have to slot back down into P2 here of this Grand Prix. Or is he? Gets a big, big run down the next straight. Let's just see if we've got enough to defend. Oh, we got another safety car. Who's... No one's retired? Oh, one of the Ferraris has binned it. Verstappen's out. So it's a double Ferrari retirement there in this Austrian Grand Prix there. Charles Leclerc actually went out under the last safety car. And Verstappen is now out of this Grand Prix as well. So with 4 to go, we've got another safety car here from the Austrian Grand Prix. And this is all getting a little bit dramatic right towards the end of this race. Safety car restarts are not our strong point on F1 2020. We really do seem to struggle with trying to get some heat into the rubber off the starts there, so I'm very intrigued to see whether Hamilton and Russell are going to be able to put up a bit of a fight off the start then. The engine wear is not looking too great either as we head in towards the final corner. We're going to try and bolt as late as possible here out of the final turn. Rich revs have been engaged. We're going to go in 3, 2, 1 now. And that is a lot of wheel spin as we get away here for 2 final laps from this Austrian Grand Prix. Is Hamilton going to be able to sneak back past us here as we got no bite through the front end and no confidence on the exit there? You can just see Hamilton straight away able to try and capitalise on that as we head up the hill. We're going to have to use all the ERS that we possibly can up in towards turn 3. Nice and late on the brakes. Don't want any contact between the pair of us as again, a lot of wheel spin on the exit of the corner there. That allows Hamilton back up into the lead of this race here. George Russell certainly not giving up on this one just yet. And now, just like last week, with 1 lap to go then here from this Austrian Grand Prix, the battle between myself and Hamilton could come down to the wire. And look at that, we've got no bite as we head down the hill. These tyres are still not quite where I want them to be. Well, let's just see. Now we're finally getting a bit more from the front end once again here, and I do not want to lose another Grand Prix right at the end here. This was mine for the winnings after that first safety car. Let's just try and nail this final lap, see if we can get any sort of opportunity on our teammate Lewis Hamilton there. As we cross the line, the gap's 0.6 of a second as we head down in towards turn 1. We will have no DRS to try and make anything work. We're just going to have to try and use ERS power and rich revs, and the gap is coming down ever so slightly to our teammate Lewis Hamilton here. Slam on the brakes at the 100-metre board up in towards turn 2. There, a big double lock-up, but can we get the traction? No wheel spin off the top of the hill there, and look at that, we are a lot closer to Hamilton than we were a couple of laps ago here. Can we try and have a look up the inside? It's a big lunge, but Hamilton not having any of it there. Slams the door shut on us with just 4 corners to go then of this Austrian Grand Prix. We're going to have to try and go for something if any sort of opportunity opens up through the final couple of turns here. Hamilton, the master of safety car restarts, it appears, on F1 2020. Really trying to use all the curbing as we head in towards the final couple of corners here. It's going to be one of the closest finishes of the season. Not a tidy run through the penultimate corner there. And Hamilton, he's going to make it the first time this season 2 in a row. But that was ours for the winning.
Okay, good job, mate. Really well done. That was a fantastic drive.
Can't fault the performance on the track today. A well-deserved victory. Anthony Davidson, a resounding victory today. What set them apart from the rest?
Well, they played the safety car to absolute perfection. There are so many factors to worry about once the race is neutralised. I mean, do you pit for fresh rubber? Do you have the space behind you? How much fuel can you save? If you answer all of those questions correctly, you'll have a good chance. And that's exactly what happened today.
Welcome then to the podium, our top 3 drivers. What a great effort from them today in a very difficult race. So, let's review the driver's standings. Mr. Monaco increases their championship lead. Now, let's discuss, Ants. Who would you say is a contender for driver of the day?
It's an interesting one today. On balance, I think I have to call out Alexander Albon. A really solid drive from him today, and one that he and his team should be proud of.
It's time to check out the constructors' standings. The current leaders continue to extend their lead at the top. It's been an absolutely wild weekend of Formula One action. I can't wait to see what's next.
Well, there we are then, guys, the end of the Austrian Grand Prix, and I guess that's what we get for trying to go up against a 7-time world champion. That is just the sort of magic you would expect from Lewis Hamilton on much older, hard compounded tyres. I thought that safety car would come in clutch for us, but unfortunately, both safety cars worked the other way in the end, and Hamilton takes a resounding 4th race victory of the season there. He might just have moved himself up into P2 of the World Championship as well there, but P2 with the fastest lap. We only lose 6 points. We're still in the lead of the Drivers' World Championship, and the gap opens up to Valtteri Bottas. I can still form sentences after one of these Grand Prix there. George Russell from pole position down to 3rd in the end. Probably a bit disappointed with that, but 2-2 Motorsport, we definitely seem to have the quickest car at the moment there. And Bottas, to be honest, a bit of a quiet weekend in 4th place there at the checkered flag. Lance Stroll, a fantastic job, best of the rest there in P5 ahead of Danny Kvyat, who was strong all weekend there. Sainz, Perez, Albon and Pierre Gasly rounding out the top 10 there, with Ocon just missing out, as well as Nick de Vries there down in P12. No other major surprises, I guess, except for both Ferraris not making it to the flag, and Danny Rick as well joining them at the wayside there. A torrid day out for two teams that really just haven't been performing in recent weekends there. In terms of the championship then, Bottas still P2, they're 33 points behind us, as Hamilton now just 4 points back from his former teammate there. Extends his margin over George Russell to 14 points there. Albon still 5th ahead of Ricciardo, with Carlos Sainz still in 7th place there. Sergio Perez jumps Lando Norris, and Kvyat and Stroll get the jump on Gasly and Esteban Ocon there at the end of the Grand Prix as well. And we've got no other movers. No, Magnussen in the Battle of Nilpois jumps Nobuharu Matsushita as well there. But constructors-wise, though, 47 points now our lead at the top of the standings as well there. Things looking very, very good as we head into the second half of the season there. But thank you all so much for watching. If you did enjoy, do make sure you get yourself subscribed. And yeah, we'll be back very, very soon for round 12, where we head to the British Grand Prix. You guys do not want to miss it. A big thank you to our channel members for making these videos possible. You can be featured in these end clips, as well as granted access to some other exclusive perks for just £1 a month by clicking the join button below.